Why smart people stay quiet in groups. You've probably noticed it before. The loudest person in the room often isn't the smartest. Meanwhile, the person with the best ideas sits quietly, observing, saying almost nothing. It's not because they have nothing to say. It's because highly intelligent people often think differently in group settings. They analyze more, question more, and speak only when they believe it truly matters. They think before they speak. One of the biggest reasons smart people stay quiet in groups is because they think before they speak. While many people respond immediately in conversations, intelligent individuals often pause to process information more deeply. They are not simply listening to words. They are analyzing meaning, considering consequences, and evaluating whether what they say will truly contribute something valuable. In group settings, conversations usually move quickly. People interrupt each other, react emotionally, or speak just to avoid silence. But highly intelligent people often approach communication differently. Instead of rushing to share every thought, they mentally organize their ideas first. They ask themselves questions like, is this accurate? Is this helpful? Is this the right moment to say it? That internal filtering process naturally makes them quieter. This careful thinking can sometimes be mistaken for shyness or insecurity. In reality, it is often the opposite. Smart people understand that words carry weight. A careless comment can create confusion, damage relationships, or escalate conflict unnecessarily. Because of this, they choose their words with precision. They would rather say one meaningful sentence than fill the room with empty noise. Another reason intelligent people pause before speaking is because they tend to see multiple perspectives at once. While others may quickly choose a side in a discussion, they are busy examining the situation from different angles. They understand that most issues are more complex than they appear on the surface. This deeper level of thinking often slows down their response time, especially in fast-moving conversations where people expect instant opinions. Interestingly, the quietest person in the room is often the one paying the closest attention. While others are focused on being heard, thoughtful individuals are focused on understanding. They listen carefully, observe body language, and notice details that others miss. By staying silent, they gather more information before forming conclusions. There is also a level of discipline involved in thoughtful silence. Intelligent people know that not every thought needs to be spoken aloud. They understand the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is immediate and emotional. Responding is intentional and controlled. That pause between hearing something and speaking back is often where wisdom is found. In today's world, silence is sometimes undervalued. Society often rewards people who speak loudly, confidently, and frequently. But intelligence is not always the loudest voice in the room. Sometimes it is the person quietly thinking, observing, and waiting for the right moment to speak. When smart people finally do speak, their words often carry more impact, because they have taken the time to think them through. Their silence is not emptiness, it is depth in progress. They notice how groups reward confidence over accuracy. One reason smart people often stay quiet in groups is because they quickly notice an uncomfortable truth. Groups tend to reward confidence more than accuracy. In many social situations, the person who speaks the loudest, fastest, or most confidently is often seen as the most knowledgeable. Even when they are completely wrong, intelligent people recognize this pattern early, and it changes the way they participate in conversations. In group discussions, confidence creates influence. People are naturally drawn to certainty because it feels reassuring. Someone who speaks boldly and without hesitation appears convincing, even if their ideas lack depth or evidence. Meanwhile, a thoughtful person who pauses to think, considers multiple perspectives, or expresses uncertainty may appear less confident, despite having a far better understanding of the topic. Highly intelligent individuals are usually aware of how complicated reality can be. They know that most important issues do not have simple answers. Because of this, they are often more careful with their opinions. They may use phrases like "it depends," "there are multiple factors," or "I could be wrong." Ironically, this intellectual honesty can make them seem less persuasive in a group setting than someone who speaks with total certainty. Smart people also notice that many conversations are not actually about discovering truth. Instead, they are often about social status, approval, or ego. In some groups, people speak to dominate attention, gain validation, or appear intelligent rather than genuinely exchange ideas. Once intelligent individuals recognize this dynamic, they may lose interest in competing for airtime. Rather than fighting to be heard, they often choose silence because they understand that being correct does not always change people's minds. A loud opinion can overpower a thoughtful one simply because it is delivered with more emotion and confidence. Over time, intelligent people learn that not every discussion is worth the energy required to challenge misinformation or shallow thinking. There is also a psychological reason behind this behavior. Intelligent individuals tend to be more aware of what they do not know. The more knowledge someone gains, the more they realize how much complexity exists in the world. This self-awareness naturally creates humility. Meanwhile, people with less understanding may feel more certain because they cannot see the full picture. As a result, the most confident person in the room is not always the most informed. This creates an interesting contrast in group settings. The person speaking nonstop may receive attention and approval, while the thoughtful observer remains quiet in the background. Yet the quiet person is often the one thinking more critically, questioning assumptions, and seeing flaws others miss. For smart people, silence is sometimes a response to the realization that wisdom and attention are not always rewarded equally. They understand that groups often prioritize confidence, charisma, and speed over careful thinking and accuracy. Instead of trying to win every conversation, they conserve their energy and speak only when they believe their words will truly matter. In the end, intelligent people stay quiet not because they lack ideas, but because they understand how group dynamics work. They know that being the loudest voice and being the wisest voice are rarely the same thing. They don't feel the need to prove intelligence. Another reason smart people often stay quiet in groups is because they do not feel the need to constantly prove how intelligent they are. People who are genuinely knowledgeable or thoughtful usually have a quiet confidence within themselves. They are secure enough that they do not rely on attention, praise, or winning arguments to feel valuable. Because of this, they rarely feel pressured to dominate conversations or show off what they know. In many social settings, people speak not only to communicate, but also to gain approval. Some interrupt others, correct small mistakes, or constantly share opinions because they want to appear smart, important, or impressive. Intelligent people often recognize this behavior immediately. They understand that the desire to prove intelligence usually comes from insecurity rather than wisdom. True intelligence is often accompanied by humility. Smart people know that no matter how much they learn, there will always be more they do not know. This awareness keeps them grounded. Instead of trying to be the smartest person in the room, they focus on learning, listening, and understanding. They are comfortable admitting uncertainty or saying, "I don't know," because their self-worth is not tied to always appearing correct. This is one reason highly intelligent individuals may seem quieter than others in group conversations. They are not interested in competing for intellectual dominance. If someone else wants attention or recognition, they often let them have it. To a thoughtful person, constantly trying to prove intelligence can feel exhausting and unnecessary. They also understand that intelligence does not need to announce itself. A truly capable person knows their value without needing constant validation from others. In fact, many intelligent people prefer simplicity over performance. They would rather have a meaningful discussion than try to impress people with complicated words or endless facts. Another important reason they stay quiet is because they understand that wisdom includes emotional control. They know that correcting every mistake, winning every debate, or showing superior knowledge can damage relationships and create tension. Sometimes preserving peace is more important than proving a point. Intelligent people often choose silence because they understand that not every disagreement deserves a response. There is also a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing information. Wisdom is knowing when and how to use it. Smart people recognize that timing matters. Speaking at the wrong moment or for the wrong reason can reduce the value of even the best ideas. As a result, they often wait carefully before contributing to a discussion. Interestingly, the people who constantly try to sound intelligent are not always the most intelligent. Truly smart individuals are usually more relaxed about what others think of them. They do not need to advertise their abilities, because their confidence comes from within, not from external praise. In a world where many people compete to be noticed, quiet confidence stands out in a different way. Intelligent people understand that there is strength in restraint. They know they do not have to speak the most, argue the hardest, or seek constant recognition to prove their intelligence. Sometimes the smartest person in the room is the one who says the least, because they have nothing to prove. They're constantly observing human behavior. One of the most overlooked reasons smart people stay quiet in groups is because they are constantly observing human behavior, while others are focused on speaking, reacting, or gaining attention. Intelligent individuals are often studying the people around them. Their silence is not emptiness, it is awareness. They are watching how people communicate, how emotions influence decisions, and how personalities interact within the group. Highly intelligent people tend to be naturally curious about human nature. They notice details that many others miss: changes in tone, nervous body language, forced laughter, hidden tension, and subtle shifts in energy during conversations. A single sentence may reveal insecurity, confidence, jealousy, fear, or a desire for approval. While most people only hear words, observant individuals pay attention to what those words truly reveal about a person. In group settings, this level of observation can make intelligent people quieter, because they are mentally processing far more information than others realize. Instead of planning what to say next, they are analyzing the environment around them. They notice who interrupts others, who seeks validation, who dominates conversations, and who stays silent out of discomfort. They also recognize how people change their behavior depending on who is present. This awareness often gives smart people a deeper understanding of social dynamics. They can sense unspoken competition, emotional tension, or hidden motives beneath casual conversations. Because of this, they are less likely to react impulsively. They prefer to observe first and understand the situation fully before speaking. Another reason intelligent people stay quiet is because observation teaches them valuable lessons. By listening carefully, they learn more about people than they would by constantly talking. Silence allows them to gather information that others freely reveal without realizing it. People often expose their priorities, insecurities, and intentions through small habits and casual remarks. Smart individuals understand that observation is a powerful form of knowledge. There is also a strategic side to this behavior. The person who speaks the least is often underestimated, which gives them an advantage, while others are busy expressing themselves. The quiet observer is building a clear picture of everyone in the room. They remember patterns, contradictions, and emotional reactions. This deeper understanding helps them navigate relationships more carefully and avoid unnecessary conflict. At the same time, intelligent observers may become quieter because they see how predictable certain social behaviors can be. They notice how people often seek approval, follow group opinions, or pretend to know more than they actually do. Watching these patterns repeatedly can make some conversations feel shallow or repetitive, causing thoughtful individuals to withdraw rather than participate. Importantly, observing human behavior does not mean judging people harshly. In many cases, intelligent people are simply trying to understand why people act the way they do. They recognize that emotions, experiences, fears, and insecurities influence behavior more than logic alone. This understanding often makes them more patient, cautious, and reflective in social situations. In a noisy world, observation is a rare skill. Many people focus so much on being noticed that they fail to truly notice others. Smart people often choose silence because they know that listening reveals more than speaking ever will. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is not disconnected at all. They are simply paying closer attention than everyone else. They know most conversations aren't productive. Another reason smart people often stay quiet in groups is because they understand that most conversations are not truly productive. Over time, highly intelligent individuals begin to recognize that many discussions are driven more by emotion, ego, or the desire to be right than by a genuine search for understanding. Because of this, they become selective about when they choose to speak, and when they decide silence is the better option. In many group settings, conversations move in circles rather than toward meaningful conclusions. People interrupt each other, repeat the same opinions, or argue simply to defend their pride. Intelligent individuals notice these patterns quickly. They can often predict when a discussion is unlikely to change anyone's mind, and instead of wasting energy trying to force insight into a closed conversation, they quietly step back. Smart people also understand the difference between discussion and debate. A healthy discussion is open-minded and focused on learning, while an unproductive debate is often focused on winning. In group conversations, many people listen only long enough to prepare their next response. They are not truly interested in understanding another perspective. Once intelligent people realize this, they may choose silence because they know their words will not be seriously considered anyway. There is also an emotional aspect to this. Highly intelligent individuals tend to value mental energy and emotional peace. They know that arguing with defensive, stubborn, or emotionally reactive people rarely leads anywhere positive. Instead, it often creates frustration, tension, and unnecessary conflict. Rather than becoming trapped in endless disagreements, they conserve their energy for conversations that are thoughtful, respectful, and meaningful. Another reason smart people avoid certain conversations is because they understand human psychology. They know that facts alone do not always change beliefs. Many people are deeply attached to their opinions because those opinions are connected to identity, pride, or social belonging. When someone feels emotionally threatened, logic often stops mattering. Intelligent individuals recognize this reality, which is why they do not feel compelled to challenge every incorrect statement they hear. This does not mean smart people think they are better than others. In many cases, they simply become more aware of how limited some conversations can be. They know that timing, openness, and emotional maturity are necessary for productive dialogue. Without those qualities, even the best ideas can be ignored or misunderstood. As a result, intelligent people often become careful about where they invest their attention. They prefer deep conversations over shallow arguments. They value quality over quantity when it comes to communication. Instead of speaking constantly, they wait for moments where real understanding is possible. Silence can also be a sign of emotional intelligence. Sometimes staying quiet prevents unnecessary drama, protects relationships, or avoids escalating tension. Smart people understand that not every opinion requires a response and not every disagreement deserves a battle. They know there is wisdom in choosing peace over pointless conflict. In today's world, people often mistake constant talking for intelligence or strength, but thoughtful individuals know that speaking less can actually reflect greater self-control and awareness. They understand that productive conversations are rare, and because of that, they choose their words carefully. Sometimes the smartest decision in a conversation is realizing that the conversation itself is going nowhere. They fear being misunderstood. One of the deepest reasons smart people often stay quiet in groups is because they fear being misunderstood. Highly intelligent individuals usually think in complex, layered ways. Their thoughts are rarely simple or black and white. They see nuance, contradictions, and multiple perspectives all at once. But in fast-moving group conversations, there is often little patience for complexity. As a result, intelligent people may choose silence rather than risk having their ideas oversimplified, twisted, or completely misinterpreted. For many thoughtful individuals, communication can feel frustrating. They may spend a long time carefully forming an idea in their mind, only to realize that explaining it clearly to others is much harder than understanding it internally. Human language has limits, and not every thought can be perfectly translated into words. Smart people are especially aware of this gap between what they mean and what others hear. In group settings, this problem becomes even more difficult. Conversations move quickly, people interrupt each other, and attention spans are short. There is often pressure to respond immediately, even when a topic deserves deeper thought. Intelligent individuals may hesitate because they know that complex ideas cannot always be explained properly in a few seconds. Instead of rushing and being misunderstood, they sometimes decide it is easier to remain quiet. Another reason they fear misunderstanding is because they have often experienced it before. Many intelligent people grow up feeling different from those around them. They may think more deeply, question things more often, or communicate in ways others do not fully relate to. Over time, repeated experiences of being misunderstood can make them more cautious about expressing themselves openly. They also understand that people often hear information through the filter of their own emotions, beliefs, and assumptions. Even a carefully explained idea can be distorted, depending on the listener's mindset. Intelligent individuals recognize this reality, which makes them more selective about when and with whom they share their deeper thoughts. There is also an emotional cost to being misunderstood. It can feel isolating when people misinterpret your intentions or reduce a thoughtful idea into something simplistic. Smart people may avoid speaking not because they lack confidence, but because they know how frustrating it can be when others misunderstand what they are trying to say. Additionally, intelligent individuals are often aware that many group conversations leave little room for nuance. Society tends to prefer simple opinions, quick answers, and clear sides. But thoughtful people know that reality is rarely that simple. They may see strengths and weaknesses on both sides of an argument, which can make their opinions harder to explain in environments that reward certainty and simplicity. As a result, silence can become a form of protection. By staying quiet, intelligent people avoid unnecessary conflict, judgment, or the exhaustion of constantly explaining themselves. They wait for conversations where people are genuinely willing to listen and understand rather than simply react. Importantly, their silence should not be mistaken for lack of thought. In many cases, quiet individuals are thinking more deeply than anyone else in the room. They are simply aware that not every environment is capable of holding complex ideas with patience and understanding. Sometimes smart people stay quiet because they know how difficult it is to express a deep thought in a world that often prefers shallow conversations. Silence is often misunderstood in today's world. Many people assume that the loudest voices are the most confident, capable, or intelligent, while quiet people are seen as shy, insecure, or disconnected. But in reality, silence can come from a much deeper place. Highly intelligent people often stay quiet in groups not because they have nothing to say, but because they are thinking, observing, analyzing, and choosing their words carefully. They think before they speak because they understand the power of words. They notice that groups often reward confidence over accuracy, and they see little value in competing for attention. They do not feel the need to constantly prove their intelligence, because true confidence does not depend on validation from others. Instead of dominating conversations, they spend time observing human behavior, quietly learning things that louder people often miss. Intelligent individuals also recognize that many conversations are not truly productive. They understand that some discussions are driven more by ego and emotion than by a genuine desire to understand, and perhaps most importantly, they fear being misunderstood. Their thoughts are often too nuanced and complex for quick, surface-level conversations, which can make silence feel safer than oversimplification. This does not mean every quiet person is a genius or every loud person lacks intelligence, but it does remind us that intelligence does not always look the way people expect. Sometimes wisdom is not found in the person speaking the most, but in the person listening the closest. In a world full of noise, silence can be a sign of depth. The quietest person in the room may not be disconnected from the conversation at all. They may simply understand it better than anyone else.